Yes, it sounds easier. The key thing is, will you watch the training and follow the direction? Will you use the script? Don't change it. I know what works. I made millions with this. Will you actually follow through? Because when you call a tenant, you have to follow through the next day and follow up on that call and send a specific email and do a specific video. There are certain steps you got to do. So if you're that kind of person who can follow direction and will follow through, you're going to make it. The money is in the follow through. Even in business, if you're an employee of a company and somebody asks you for something, or you have an unfinished cycle of action, the money is made in the follow through. And most people don't follow through.
We have a question from Marquise. Marquise, welcome to the call. Do you ever invest in C-class storefronts in maybe not so great neighborhoods?
C classes for single tenant buildings may make sense, meaning it's a bad neighborhood and there is a standalone building that's boarded up. You can actually put it under contract, probably less expensively than you would in a very nice neighborhood, and still Jack in the Box, McDonald's, Burger King, et cetera, want to be there because killers want to eat too. But also, I want to talk about C-class buildings. When it comes to apartment buildings, for instance, C-class buildings are a totally different animal. Look right now with the COVID-19, what happened is when you look at statistically apartment buildings, and I'm now deviating a bit, but they collected nationwide for April rent, 70% of the rent was collected. So almost 1 out of 4 tenants did not pay in apartment buildings. Okay, we got this guy, Grant Cardone, going bankrupt. He got a YouTube video explaining he's selling his $50 million airplane at 6 or 7 million. His condo that was worth 20 million is now selling it at 7 million. The guy's just collapsing. Why? Because he couldn't collect some rent. But the thing is, so C class, when you look at now A class being the nicest buildings, B class being lower class of apartment buildings, C class is the lowest class of buildings, kind of neighborhoods that are not the best, the people are on unemployment, etc. The collection efforts on the C class, they were only able to collect 50% of the rent. So imagine you have 100 units, you collected from 50. How are you going to even make your debt payment or pay staff or pay utilities or, you see? And B class, they collected, they say 60 some percent. And then the A class, they collected 80%. So now you may be thinking, okay, maybe I should buy A class buildings only. Well, if you buy A class buildings, you're paying top dollars. So now how are you going to make the payments? Because now you overpaid. Yes, you collected a lot, but your payment is very high. You paid so much, you can even flip it so easily because there is no upside to it. Everybody want to outsmart the other person. So C class, when you think of C class neighborhoods, it may not work for apartment buildings very well unless you have maybe Section 8 and you have some plan with the building and maybe it's a C-class building in a B-class neighborhood, etc. You have to really understand what you're getting into. When it comes to single-tenant buildings, it's a lot less hassle, a lot less risk because you will not buy that building, whether it's C-class neighborhood, B-class neighborhood, A-class neighborhood. You will not buy that building, if you follow my directions at least, unless you have lined up the long-term national tenant with the corporate guarantee, the triple net, that means they pay the lease net of tax, insurance, and maintenance. And you also have some escalation because you want to meet or beat inflation. So your risk is completely reduced. Actually, your risk is zero if you ask me, because if you don't line up the tenant, you just walk away. You put 5,000, 10,000 earnest money deposit, you get it back. So what is the risk?
Yeah, I think that's a good point for most people that they don't understand with your JV partner program. There really is no risk. I mean, that's one of the few ways to actually get started in commercial real estate with no risk, because you said typically it's about $5,000 earnest money deposit, right? In this situation, the question was about whether or not somebody will take a minimum of $10,000. But this is realistically the way that you teach in the contract, the agreement. It's an earnest money deposit that is completely refundable, right?
Yes, exactly.
Because of the due diligence period.
Exactly. Yes.
So they're not risking any of that. And then can you explain briefly, I think for a lot of people, we have a lot of new people that have joined the call, but can you explain what the upside is for somebody to go into the joint venture partner program? Essentially, like a really simple how it works. What did they get paid? Like, how do they earn money?
All right. So when we find a vacant single tenant building, that's a standalone building. When you find it vacant, the purchase price is a lot lower because there's no income. So the cap rate is zero. But there is a building there and it has potential based on the location, the neighboring tenants, the traffic, etc. So we're able to negotiate a very good deal to put it under contract, especially in today's market. I mean, whatever you tell me right now is working to our advantage if you know how to position yourself. If you don't know how to position yourself, I don't know, go somewhere and start complaining online, see if any, you can commiserate with many people and a lot of people commiserating out there. And my answer to them is, okay, you feel the world is coming to an end, you have something for sale. You know, you can just buy from the negative person, sell to the positive person, right? But we are actually working with numbers. So key thing is understand that a single tenant building, standalone building, is a very desirable asset today because a lot of tenants, like take Subway, take Dunkin' Donuts, they don't like the idea now of being in malls because if the mall loses the anchor tenant, they lose traffic and they're stuck in the lease of maybe 7-8 more years, and they're saying, wait a minute, you want me to pay lease, you want me to pay triple net, cam, which is common area maintenance, I'm stuck. I want to go to a standalone building where I can actually promote on my display windows, get people from the traffic coming up here and cater to the 5-mile radius and bring clients that will be repeat customers, give them points and thing with the card so they can come back, etc. So what we teach the students is to identify these type of buildings with specific 15 criteria that we look for. I mean, you don't have to have the whole 15 in each building, but the more you have, the higher your chances to attract these tenants. You put it under contract using my proof of funds, which is saying this is a fund, a real estate fund, and here is capital sitting in cash. We're ready to do these deals, and we've done this for many, many years. We have 100 million in assets. So a broker, a seller takes you as a joint venture partner, a student who's taking the training and gone through all the steps, they take you seriously. You're able to then put it under contract with no obligation to purchase for 45 or 60 days. That period of time is called the due diligence period. And what you do is you then prepare a package for the tenants. We go through the details of the package. It will take me an hour to just explain that part. And we explain it in detail, show examples, etc. But you prepare a package. You use the tenant list. We have compiled the tenant list that we update periodically with over 4,500 national tenants that look to grow. Their business is based on growing. Even if they have franchisees, they get the location, they lease it from us, and then they sublease it to their franchisees. So we want to talk to the big tenants. How do we get them? We communicate with them. We send them the package. We do it by phone and follow up by email. And there is a process to it for the follow up. And that's where the money is. That's where people who are not going to follow up, don't take my training. Please don't join me in the joint venture. It's just a hassle for you and a lot of time and effort on my part. And then you're not going to follow up. So if you follow up, this is for you. Again, it can't get any easier. You're sitting home making phone calls, okay, and sending emails. Once you do enough of these, there's, of course, a critical mass. It gains momentum after a few days. All we need is one tenant to be interested. That tenant will communicate usually by email and say, we want to discuss a few things. We have some questions. Answer them. Once they're ready to communicate and get on a conference call to discuss the actual bullet points for the location, that's when you forward the email to me personally, not to somebody else. You forward it to me and you copy my office because we have a check and balance. And what we do is we get on a conference call, me, you, and the tenant representative. Usually there are two. There is somebody from the retail division, like let's say Subway, and then there is a designer team, and they ask questions. And they say, well, how about this and that? We negotiate the LOI, the letter of intent. We even give you a sample letter of intent on a Word doc in the JV program training on the website. I've done a training in Cancun right here. We've done a training where I brought in a consultant for big tenants that took tenants from like 15 locations to 200 locations. His name is Paul. And I role played with him. So you get to see how it was done in person, how it's done on the phone, and you get to see the scenarios. But I will still do actual negotiations with the tenants to actually discuss all the bullet points. That's my expertise. I've done very well with it, and I've done millions of dollars in my own buildings, and we continue to do it for the real estate funds that I have. So you as a joint venture partner will line up the tenant. I will do the negotiation. You will be listening. We finish the call. We close the deal right after, and you get paid in escrow. Now, when you get a property vacant, it's worth X. And when we line up a tenant that's going to pay for 10 to 15 years with a corporate guarantee, that means the payment is guaranteed by the entire corporation, backed by big banks like Wells Fargo, Citigroup, etc. What happens? The value of the building, because of the income that is going to produce, goes way higher. Not only is the income that is going to produce makes it go higher, but who's paying that income? It's a big national company. And
Yep.
on that upside, I pay 10%. So if it's, I gave the example earlier of $1 million, it goes to $1.6 million. There is a specific multiplier. It's a secret sauce. I share it with the joint venture partners. You can't make a mistake. You know exactly the range of price you should put that property under contract for. You will know exactly when that tenant comes in what the value is going to be. Now, I don't care what they're asking for the building. Here's what it's going to be. We have somebody right now in Santa Monica, California, and he said, my gosh, they're asking for this. I said, no, you know the formula. We should pay between this and that. And he went back to the seller broker, and he said, listen, this is what we're going to pay. We're a fund. We move quickly. We buy all cash. If you're serious, get back to us. Last we hear, yesterday, Friday, the guy said, okay, we're talking to the owner. They may come to terms with us next week, and we're going to make it happen. The broker wants to sell. He wants to move it. And the seller was just still dreaming of the high prices because Santa Barbara, I said Santa Monica maybe, but Santa Barbara, California, I'm sorry.